Hello, Orioles fans. My name is Adam Pohl, and welcome to our first edition of the Orioles Minor League Podcast. This is going to be a weekly podcast, about 20 to 30 minutes on average, that will be right here on BaltimoreBaseball.com. That means talking to somebody, a prospect, manager, coach, rover, a beat writer, broadcaster, or minor league executive, weekly to give you a unique perspective on many of the different facets of minor league baseball and its experience. First and foremost, though, we're going to be discussing and focusing on the field. And after our weekly main guest, we're going to have the man on our minor league beat, Dean Jones, to chat about the week that was for our top prospects in the Orioles organization and others within the system. So let's get this thing started. Trey Mancini is our first guest. Trey may not be rated as the top prospect in the Orioles organization, but he's putting up numbers as if he should be. The Orioles' 8th-round pick in 2013 out of Notre Dame, Trey is the reigning Orioles Minor League Player of the Year, and just days ago got his first call up to AAA Norfolk. Now, I was able to speak to Trey this past weekend while he was still in Bowie, and here was our conversation. Well, he's usually not a leadoff man, but he's our leadoff man, our first podcast here for BaltimoreBaseball.com. And Trey Mancini's joining us. Trey, great to have you with us. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So, it's interesting. I've been able to watch your game over the last year or so here in Bowie, and it just seems like a few things stand out to me. Your hitting coach, Keith Bodie, last year, we were talking about the fact that teams did not shift against you. And he said, well, when people hit the ball as hard as Trey does, it doesn't matter where the infielders are standing. And that's got to be a great feeling and something that you take pride in, the ability to hit the ball to all parts of the field.
Yeah, definitely. I think, my whole life, a big part of my game's been trying to hit the ball hard opposite field. I mean, when I'm going well, I usually think about hitting the ball to right center field. So I think because of that, and I go oppo a lot, is the reason they usually play me straight up. But if they do shift me, a couple times they shifted me from time to time, and that's something that you can't really think about as a hitter. You can't try to place the ball anywhere, but you just look for a pitch kind of outside to maybe beat it, but you still want to hit the ball hard no matter where they play it.
Do you remember that game, though, last year where a team did shift you? I can't remember who it was. It might have been Harrisburg or Erie. Yeah. And they shifted you. You basically hit 2 or 3 ground balls where a second baseman would be. You had to love that jogging down the first.
Yeah, so they shifted me. The second baseman was playing behind second base, and every time I literally they threw me outside, and I just kind of just swung and just tapped the ball through the right side. So if you get a pitch to do that, then it's definitely, the shift can definitely work in your favor. Last night here in Bowie, actually, we had a conversation before the game about it, but on a lot of lefties they've been shifting, and we got a few bunt hits down, which ended up being huge for us. So there's definitely ways to beat the shift there.
Don't you see that? You're seeing that more and more in the game. Matt Wieters, Matt Wieters not known for his incredible legs, but I watched one of the Orioles last spring training games, and he had 2 bunt singles in that game.
That's if you can get the bunt down, you don't even have to really try to hurry out of the box or anything. You can just get a bunt down, and if you put it anywhere in a decent spot, you're going to get a hit. So I don't see why you wouldn't do it every time, honestly, if you get shifted like that.
Well, it's funny because, obviously that's not the way of the world for you, though, because you're not seeing that. I am intrigued, though, at how people are pitching you this year, because it seemed like early on that last year, most pitchers, let's get a fastball over to get ahead in the count. Let's work him away. Once again, you drive the ball the other way well. Now you're seeing a lot of off-speed stuff, or it seems to be a lot of high fastballs early, which is different.
Yeah, it is, and those are hard pitches to lay off, and that's something I'm working on. I'm still going after those a lot. Just seeing the straight ball come out, and when it's elevated, it looks good. Yeah. But yeah, I've definitely been working the count more, because I have been pitched differently this year for sure. I'd say I'm seeing a lot more off speed, especially if they get that first strike in. If they throw it on the outside corner, I don't swing, then they've been pitching me tough. So I've been really trying to work on that a lot.
I know it almost seemed to be, too, watching you hit over the last year, that it's almost different when you're leading off an inning as well. Mm-hmm. So an example was last year in Portland, you come to the Bay Sox. I don't even know if we'd really even talked at this point because you were so new to the team. And
and you hit your first Double-A home run, and on our radio broadcast, we weren't even back from commercial yet, because literally it was the first pitch of the inning, and you hit it, and then we came back, so we had to kind of recreate the moment, if you will, as you're like running around second base, and it's gone, you know. So you hit a lot of first pitch home runs, especially to begin innings, because I would think you think first pitch fastball, but to start an inning, my guess is that pitchers even throw a higher rate of first pitch fastballs.
Oh, definitely. I've always liked leading off innings because you're just going to see a larger percentage of fastballs there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about the course of the season, statistically, how many fastballs are thrown first pitch of an inning, it's a lot. I mean, and I think about that, and coming up, I mean, large majority of the time you see a fastball there, so I'm always ready to hit it and get a good pitch and try to hit it hard.
I like making comparisons to players, even though it's never, always the same. But now that I've been around long enough, my first full season team that I was with, I had a ball player that's gone on to great success. And to me, you hit the ball a lot like him, even though he's a corner outfielder. But there's certain other aspects of his game that really remind me of you, and that is Hunter Pence. Hunter Pence, I was in Salem in Advanced A Baseball, an Astros affiliate, in 2005, and Pence was a second-round pick. He was a guy that some people said might look a little gawky or awkward.
Yeah.
He just hit line drives constantly. And the next year, was a year that he was the Double-A MVP of what was in Corpus Christi, the Texas League, and then went up and was a big leaguer, following that. So, have you heard comparisons? Have you tried to mimic your game after somebody, or do you? I don't know. Do you see that comparison as something that is a nice thing, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm honored that you think that. Honestly, I mean, I don't know if I'm there yet on his level, but yeah, I mean, as being labeled as kind of an unorthodox or even goofy player sometimes for whatever reason. I mean, maybe it's for good reason, I don't know. But, yeah, I've always really appreciated Hunter Pence and the way he plays and goes about it, because his swing is unorthodox. I mean, nobody swings like him, and nobody really plays like him, but he gets the job done, and he plays hard every day, and that's what I try to do as well.
For me, it's not really the swing aspect. It's more that how you look in the field, I guess, even though you're a first baseman, and then just the propensity of hitting line drives that carry, that are in the gap or double. For instance, Salem. I know you played in the Carolina. Did you ever get down there?
Yeah, I played in Salem quite a few times. Actually,
it's such a pitcher's park.
Oh, definitely.
It's a regular stadium. The wind blows in a lot, and the fence is 20 feet high everywhere. Hunter Pence was in the Carolina League for 2 months. He hit 6 home runs in the Carolina League. They were all in Salem, which was hard to believe.
That's impressive. I did not hit a home run there in my time down there. So it was always tough to get a ball out of there for sure.
Yeah, it's tricky. In fact, Nathan Moreau was a pitcher in the Orioles organization, and he threw a no-hitter. That was with guys like Xavier Avery, L.J. Hose, and that group of guys on the Keys. And Frederick, of course, is a hitter's park. There were 4 flyouts to the wall, and during Nathan's no-hitter, everybody joked that he would have had a bad start if it was at home, and it was the game of his life. So that can happen down there. It's such a nuanced part of the game, isn't it? That to play in different parks. But once again, going back to that quote from Keith Bodie, it's not all about hitting home runs. And if you're hitting the ball hard, right? Yeah. It's going to work out. And it seems like exit velocity. Do they have that for you guys? Is there any aspect of exit velocity that they can provide you in the minors?
I don't know. I mean, there's probably a way, I'm sure. But no, I have not been provided with that information or anything. We can go online and look at our at-bats and swings and stuff, and I do that a lot. But I haven't seen anything about exit velocity. And your comment about the ballparks, it is kind of crazy how at some places it's just really hard to get a ball out, like Delmarva. When I played there, I didn't hit a home run at home the whole time I was in Delmarva. I had 3 home runs there, and they were away, but it was almost good because I never thought about hitting home runs there at all. I just kind of thought about hitting the ball hard and line drive. So I hit well in the park, but never got a ball out. So it's just kind of funny how depending on where you're playing, your mentality can kind of change like that.
For yourself, another aspect of the game that stood out to me is and I almost have to apologize for this because I feel like I hurt you in this before the playoffs last year when I came down and talked to you about the fact that you had won the batting crown, a few hours before. It was quite a story. Trey won the batting title because if you prorate the at-bats out that he had, he still, even though he didn't have enough at-bats to qualify, he still had a better average. But we were about to play Altoona, and the guy that was going to win the batting title thought he won it, was on Altoona, and I knew that kind of, was a little bit uncomfortable for you. And what I'm getting into, I guess, is that focus, I think, is a big thing for you. What is your routine? Like a few hours before a game, you have a way of getting ready, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always kind of do the same thing every day. I'm usually pretty quiet before the games, but I just try to visualize my at-bats and playing, and I really focus in because I try to treat every at-bat with the same intensity, and I'd really want to do well and for us to win. So every day I just try to really focus in and get ready for the games.
I think it might be more for a pitcher, but I think baseball is so different. I had a pitching coach once that told me that, in football, especially let's say you're a special teams guy, you want to get as fired up as possible. You want to listen to Rage Against the Machine and want to run through a wall. But in baseball, it's not like that. I mean, if you're angry and pissed and out there, looking to fire at all cylinders that way, it's not going to work for you.
Not at all. And I've always been, if I'm really pumped or something, or really down or in the dumps kind of at the time, usually it's not good. I think it's really good to be in the middle and very even keel in baseball, and that's what I try to be. I just try to kind of relax before my games and not be too sometimes I have a hard time maybe trying not to drink too much coffee before games because I can get a little jittery and maybe jumpy at the plate. So I always have done well when I'm just very relaxed and not thinking about anything. I think that's really important in baseball.
Yeah, and so one of the aspects then, of course, is not only mentally do you have a routine, but physically during the season. I mean, there's not much you can do to build your body, right? I mean, you're kind of just trying to maintain and finesse because you don't want to do too much. You've got to be ready to go. You need your energy every night for a game.
Yeah, I mean, I go to the gym a lot here. I go probably 4 or 5 times a week. So, and a lot of that's maintaining, but I do try to get my workouts in and keep my body healthy. But I think our strength coach here, Pat Armstrong, does a great job of knowing kind of how we're feeling and what to do with us that day. But honestly, I always like going and lifting in the morning because I feel really loose and when I get to the field, and something about kind of getting your body activated I think helps a lot. So I do kind of like that, and it's part of my routine. I usually go every weekday or 4 of the weekdays, and then Saturday and Sunday maybe I'll take off. But I try to go to the gym a pretty good amount actually during the year.
Is it a lot different though as to maybe how much you're doing or what you're doing in season to off season?
It's a little different. I still lift as much weight during the season, but maybe don't do as many exercises. Kind of our workouts are a little shorter. But in the off season, definitely try to get after it and really you want to be sore the next day after you work out. And here that's obviously not the case, but you definitely want to at least maintain what you built in the off season for sure.
I don't know if you grew up an Orioles fan, but you grew up coming to the state of Maryland with some extended, well, not even extended, your grandma, your mom grew up here actually in Bowie. But now I feel like in the minor leagues, it's a progression. And sometimes when you're Dylan Bundy, the moment you get drafted, you're known. And Orioles fans know you. There are hundreds of minor league players. There's only a handful that are actually known by the big Oriole fans, that they're looking at box scores, following. And last year at this time, if we were sitting here talking, I wouldn't say that you were one of those names.
No.
Right now you are. What is that different?
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of look back at where I was when during the draft and everything, and that whole process. It was tough at times because I had missed playing in Cape Cod going into my junior year, which is huge. Scouts really put a lot of emphasis on that. So there were a lot of question marks, I think, for me.
Why did you miss that?
What's that? I dove into home plate during the season, and my left shoulder, it kept acting up. Like if I check swung, it would pop and it would hurt really bad for a couple days. So it happened I went up to Cape Cod, but it happened my first game, and I just kind of decided to. I mean, it wasn't anything structurally wrong, but yeah, I needed to get that healthy, especially for my junior year at Notre Dame. I didn't really want to risk hurting it further, so. I missed that summer, took it off, and then I haven't had any issues with it since. But I think that could have hurt me in the draft. But I really do. I'm one of the people that thinks that things like that happen for a reason. And I got drafted by the Orioles in the 8th round, which a lot of people thought at the time was a reach for me. There were a lot of question marks still about my defensive ability, and I had kind of looked at, like we said, unorthodox in the field, and a lot of people thought that my game wouldn't translate into pro ball at all. So ever since then, I kind of had a little chip on my shoulder trying to prove some people wrong and play well, and I've been really trying to do that.
You played on a great Notre Dame team, but you also played on a Notre Dame team that was not in the ACC. I mean, the ACC is such an outstanding baseball conference. You were playing in the Big East.
Right.
Nothing against the Georgetowns and the like of the world, but it's just a little bit different, and maybe that kind of played into it as well. But going into a different thing, it's so interesting because baseball is a game where somebody might come out here and see you go 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, but not know that you hit 4 home runs in a week over a 6-game span, or something of that nature. I mean, that's for anybody. And if you're a scout or a college, it's hard to watch a guy play 10, 15 games and get a feel for them.
Oh, yeah, that's why we play 142 games, because you need to play that many games to really build a whole season's worth of credentials, and you go through a lot of good and bad times during that.
Yeah.
Every single year. I mean, I've hit a point where I was really down and questioning my abilities at some point, for sure, and that happened to me last year, a month into the season. I was really struggling, but it's all about being strong mentally and getting through that, and I think just forgetting about everything that happened. You can't control what had happened in the past, good or bad, with your at-bats in the game. So this year especially, I've been just trying to focus on what's ahead of me and just thinking about that at-bat and not too far ahead in the games or too far ahead in the season of where I could be. And I really think that helps for sure. Yeah,
especially this year now that head can easily wander. And, we hope that Norfolk and then, of course, the Orioles are for you here in the near future.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I hope so. So we'll see. You just got to keep going out and playing hard every night.
Once again, we want to say a big thank you to Trey Mancini, who, of course, was promoted after our conversation to AAA Norfolk, and he is now the Norfolk Tides everyday first baseman. Well, this is going to be a weekly feature for us here on BaltimoreBaseball.com and our minor league podcast as we welcome in Dean Jones Jr., who is covering the minors in depth here for Baltimore Baseball. And Dean, you've got a weekly piece that comes out every Tuesday. And this week, I guess the big news, we got to talk to him here prior to his promotion, but Trey Mancini, very well earned. He was leading the Eastern League with 7 home runs when he got the call up to AAA Norfolk.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those things, Adam, you and I have had conversations since then. It's been around Twitter. It's been around, the sentiment was, why was Mancini at Bowie to start the year after everything he did, winning the Eastern League batting title last year? And why was he there to start the year anyway? And like you said, I think in the limited time that he was there, if you had to ask him to do anything to earn that promotion, like you said, 7 home runs, leading the Eastern League, 302, 14 RBIs, and 18 runs. I mean, 17 games, that's, obviously phenomenal. So, he got that call, like you said, got the good news to start this week, and, moved up to AAA on Monday and hitless, in the first 2 games, Monday and Tuesday. But, I think Orioles fans have to be happy that that's where he should be, before the calendars even turn to May 1st. A lot of guys, a lot of fans are kind of hoping that he, could make a contribution at the major league level sometime later in the year. So, this is definitely the right first step, I think, for that.
Yeah, and this is going to be a big test. Norfolk is a much tougher ballpark to hit in than Bowie, and he just had such incredible success
in Bowie. He talked about how hard it was to hit in Delmarva. He played in Delmarva almost an entire year and never hit a home run there at Delmarva. He's already in 2 weeks hit 6 home runs here at home in Bowie this year. So going to a park where it's going to be tough to hit home runs, it'll be interesting because we saw with Christian Walker, who hit for great power in Bowie, and it took him almost maybe a half a year to get going in Norfolk.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's completely different than Prince George's Stadium, and some other guys who have done really well at the AA level have, struggled a little bit when they first get to AAA. And, it's not so much, hey, okay, it's a better level of competition there, but, it's also one of the things, like you said, the ballpark plays a lot of role in it, and it's not just there. I mean, you see guys that, get there, don't do it, and okay, hey, maybe he's a 4A player, he can't really cut it, but
right.
Then, gets called up to the majors for, an injury, and hey, he's the next man up, so he goes up and then hits to the major league level. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but it's one of those things, it's more, the minor leagues are, hey, let's prove, a lot of times you got to think too, scouts and, coaching staff, the minor league directors, they're not necessarily looking at, numbers. Obviously, it's great if a guy's hitting, 300 with 7 home runs like he was at AA, but if he's learning to hit the other way, he's doing the fundamentals, he's doing what they need, that's a big part of, earning that promotion too. It's more than just what the statistics say in the minor leagues, I guess is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's talk about guys that are working on those fundamentals at the lower levels. Class A Delmarva, they've had a good start to the year. The Orioles minors last year had a great year. Bowie won their first ever title. AAA Norfolk, for the first time in the Orioles organization, won their division and went to the postseason. This year, though, Norfolk, Bowie, Frederick, under 500 to start. Delmarva, though, as of Tuesday night, is 11-8. And they've got some interesting guys, these first-round picks from last year that for those that want to look at the box scores nightly, they've got some guys to kind of peek in to see how they're doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, 2 of the top 10 prospects that we're covering each week, in the Dean Jones report on BaltimoreBaseball.com is, Ryan Montcastle and DJ Stewart, those first-round picks that you mentioned. And, Montcastle, he actually had a great, start to the year. And, first 2 games, I think it was, had 3 hits. And, then he struggled since then. I mean, he has just 13 total bases in the first 15 games. Right. And, it looks like tonight he actually did have a triple, or Tuesday night he did have a triple, for Delmarva. So, he maybe hopefully is turning around, but he's still batting below 200, struggling a little bit. But, DJ Stewart, he's one who, when we first did the first report, last week he was struggling as well, and he actually has turned it on a little bit lately. Had 6 for 8. He was 6 for 8 with 6 walks and 7 runs scored in final 3 games of their series against Kannapolis over the weekend. And in that little bit of time, his average went from 140 to 235. So I mean, he's up there. And one encouraging stat with him is he's got 12 walks through the early part of the season. One thing to kind of watch out with him, he's a little bit older than Montcastle, obviously,
right.
Too. Came out of college, and left-handed hitter. He's hitting above 300 against right-handers, doing very well, but against lefties so far, he's kind of struggled. He had sub 100 average, going through Monday night's game. So it's kind of one of those things. Like I said, it's low A, and he's got to face the growing pains, got to learn to hit the pitching, and ideally, those guys, you know how it is. First-round picks, they're going to get, a little bit more of a look-see than a guy that was picked later in the round. So, ideally for the Orioles, those guys will both make some strides, through the middle of the year and see if they'll, earn a way to Frederick, or if, hey, maybe it's better to stay the whole year at Delmarva, especially in Montcastle's case. He's younger and can kind of play the string out there, and ideally you just want to see improvement from game 1 through game 100, game 150, and down into September.
Let's take a quick look at Frederick. There's some players that really stand out there. Jomar Reyes, Tanner Scott are guys to really watch out for. Reyes, a third baseman, very young, 19 years old. Scott throws extremely hard. But today we're going to focus on Jonah Heim. There's a lot of young catchers the Orioles drafted, high school catchers in the 2013 draft. The one that has progressed most quickly through the system is Chance Sisco, who's the youngest player on the Bowie Bay Sox. But you've got Heim and Frederick, and then Alex Murphy in Delmarva. And it just seems like it's really exciting to follow the progress of these three guys. And Heim's had a good start for the Keys.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually he's struggled a little bit, but he is hitting below 200. But on Tuesday night, actually broke through with his first home run of the year. And obviously, like you mentioned, I mean, it's a guy that Dan Duquette, coming from Amherst, he's a guy Dan Duquette loves.
Yeah.
The Orioles, it was much talked about when he was drafted, and was taking BP with the major league team, and really came on, and they really liked the bat, obviously. And I mean, like I said, he had a couple multi-hit games, in the middle of April, and it's kind of been off and on. He's sharing time with Austin Wins, I think, there in Frederick, and it's kind of one of those things. Like I said, he had the home run Tuesday night, and the Keys came up with a 4-1 win at Harry Grove. So, we'll like to see when we talk next week. We'll see if that kind of spurs him forward a little bit, or if it's one of those things where hopefully he'll show some improvement and keep going.
Lastly, Dean, Hunter Harvey is the number one prospect by just about all accounts right now in the Orioles organization, with Dylan Bundy now in the big leagues. I guess Dylan still maybe a little bit of time before he graduates officially as a prospect. But for Harvey, he's been injury-plagued these last year or two, and it seems like he's starting to finally get to a point where he's throwing again, and hopefully soon to be back in the Orioles minors. And we expect that he'll be in Frederick for a large part of this season.
Yeah, it seems like before Tuesday night's game, they had an update for reporters down in Tampa that he will be pitching 2 innings Thursday and extended, and it'll be his first game action since he was shut down with that groin discomfort. And like you said, I mean, it's one of those things, he hasn't pitched in a game in the regular season since July of 2014, and 2013 first-round pick, showed a lot of promise when he first came out, and it was one of those things, you're not going to rush a young, arm, as we saw, like you said, Dylan Bundy.
Right.
But, he's kind of stuck in neutral right now, and any bit of good news, obviously, is welcomed. And, yeah, it seems like he's on the disabled list, technically right now at Frederick. So, we'll see how that goes and see how he works down in extended spring training. And, ideally he'll be on a full-season team and contributing before long.
Every year it seems to me, being in the Orioles minor leagues, that there's that one team that stands out more than the others, within the Orioles minors. And this year, I think it's a really fun year, and I'm glad that we're going to be doing this week in and week out, because it just seems that every team has got quite a few players that are really, really interesting to keep our eyes on. So, Dean, this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it here this season.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I, ideally, like I said, I'm going to track on the report each week, going to track the Baseball America's top 10, minor leaguers, and then, guys that are surging and falling. And I always like to kind of, show players from each team, and it's sometimes, like you said, hard to do, but so far the first 2 weeks it's worked out. We've had, a pretty balanced stack, and, ideally we'll see how that goes the rest of the year.
So that's going to do it for us here today. Thank you for listening in to our first Orioles Minor League podcast here on BaltimoreBaseball.com. A big thank you to my guests today, Trey Mancini, now of the Norfolk Tides, and Dean Jones Jr., contributor here to BaltimoreBaseball.com. Next week, we're going to have a long chat with the beat writer for the Norfolk Tides, David Hall of the Virginian Pilot. Till then, though, my name is Adam Pohl. This has been the Orioles Minor League Podcast on BaltimoreBaseball.com.